Well, it's better than the late.
I know, I think it is.
I mean, why would we not try?
And they, and the freeze grant amount, we think, 750,000, that's not definite. Well, we can do some this year, put boxes in.
Thank you for everybody coming tonight. We'd like to call the meeting to order. And first thing we do is, I was going to give you a chance to sit down.
Oh, I'm running.
As
Fast I move.
Chief Page, if he would offer our invocation.
Heavenly Father, Lord, God, we come to you, we exalt you as Lord and King. God, we thank you for the blessing of the rain and the blessings we don't deserve. God, we ask your will be done through all proceedings tonight. God, just be with us, keep us safe. In your precious son's name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I did forget to make this announcement. Please silence your phones if you haven't already. We have a couple of items of community interest. One is the Chair Fair is June the 14th. I've been asked to encourage a black tie optional event. Stephanie has an event coming up, or her group has an event coming up. It's called The Groom Has Cold Feet. Can you give us a little bit of information about this?
It's a murder mystery play. It's a murder mystery play. It is hosted by the Bowie Alliance for Education and the Arts, and it will be this weekend on Friday and Saturday at Freedom Life Church. And you can get the tickets online at www.bowieallianceforeducationofthearts.com.
Everybody get that? All right. Okay, so the meeting for Monday, the 27th, is on a holiday, so we have canceled that meeting. So your next meeting for the city council will be June the 10th. And the office will also be closed on the 27th. The next item we have on the agenda is the proclamations. We have two tonight. And the first one we're going to issue is an emergency medical services. And we have a bunch of emergency medical service team here with us.
Joel, you look pretty.
So, our proclamation, I want you to know that the chief's efforts in the work. The next item on the agenda is the city manager's report, so we're going to turn it over to Bert.
I'll point out first that our engineering firm, Mike Tibbetts, is here with Hayter Engineering, and it's going to be kind of like show and tell. I'm going to turn some of this over to Mike as we go through it, because he explains it and understands it a whole lot better than I do. So, Mike, when I say you're on, you're on. You can get up there if you want to. Design work is proceeding on the additional substation transformer. Core tests were done the week before last for the transformer concrete base and switching, so we should be able to pour concrete for the slab bases to move the transformer to buoy around the 1st of August. We still do not have a final cost from Brazos Electric for their work on the substation, but we should have some final numbers soon. We went ahead and paid for the transformer to avoid a single audit that is required when more than $750,000 is spent within a fiscal year of the federal funds, and these are federal funds that we're using. Part of the cost of the substation will be in this year's budget and part of next year's budget to avoid the costly single item audit. The single item audit will run about $20,000, so we'll save about that much money by splitting it up the way we're doing it. In the agenda, we have the approval of Phase 2 of the Texas Water Development Board project, which is the Glen Hills lift station and the sludge pump replacement for the wastewater treatment plant. The bids came in a little over budget, but the engineers tell us that several things we can do to, which will lower the cost by about $228,000. Mike, you're on now.
All right, on April 25th, we opened bids on this project. I say bids, really we actually only opened one bid because we only had one contractor that submitted a bid. I don't like to go to city councils with only one bid, but if we threw the bid out and we rebid it, I don't think this contractor would bid the project because his number is known. So I think that we're recommending that you go ahead and accept this bid. The low bid was BAC Underground that is already working here in town on the Phase 1 project. And we're having good success with that contractor. So we recommend that you award the project to BAC Underground in the amount of $1.38 million. Now, of that, there is $228,000 worth of potential savings. These are items that we just think are very expensive, and under state law, you can reduce the contract by 25% if you want to. You can also add 25% to it if you find something that you need to do. But in this case, the low bid was $1,380,605. BCAC Underground. And we've got a notice of award that we would like for the mayor to sign if y'all would authorize her to do so. But this is kind of one of those deals, you win some and you lose some. When we bid Phase 1, we came in way under budget, and under what we thought the cost should be, we came in way over. But the difference in the two, one was $652,000 under, one was $670 over. So we're within 3% on $600,000. So it's just about a wash. So in your Water Development Board project, we had about $7.6 million for construction, and with these two, you'll still have $6 million worth of work. Phase 3 is coming up. We've got it mostly designed. We intend to submit that to the Water Development Board at the end of May. And Phase 4 is coming up. We anticipate sending that to the Water Development Board in October. So things are moving, and this is the second phase. This will be a lift station at Glen Hills and some sludge pumps at the wastewater treatment plant and some miscellaneous items with that. Another piece of savings that we can get is we can use a different type of manhole, save another $28,000. So there's some things here. I think this is all positive, and our recommendation is that you recommend this project to BCAC Underground.
And I also recommend that we approve the contract. The next item on my report is the Nelson Street Bridge project is ongoing. The downstream banks have been concreted or are being concreted. Some of them, one side is done. Next comes the drop box at Mill and Nelson along with the concrete paving. There will also be some bank improvements upstream from Bridge. You're on again.
Okay. Well, the big question that probably most everybody is wondering about is why has nothing been done in months at Mill and Nelson? I want to know the same thing. Bert and Galen and Stoney and I had a meeting with the contractor, and it was the inlet box there. It's going to have a grating over the top for water to go in, but it has two 42-inch pipes coming from the north, two 42s going to the east, and it was not built like we had required it to be, and they said they'd get us an answer. Well, in February, they still had not, and I sent them a letter saying, we need to know something. Sent them another letter in March or April. The last letter I sent them was, you haven't responded to me. I want you to tear it out and replace it according to the design. I got a response a few days ago that said, we know your concern. I said, I've talked to y'all 4 times about this. I still don't have an answer. And so the time is theirs to use as they see fit, but after their time is up, it's up to y'all if you want to impose liquidated damages. So they've said, this is going to take us a long time to figure this out. Well, you've had 4 months, 5 months. So I'm waiting for a response from them. But ultimately, you have the power here because you can impose the liquidated damages that are $500 or $700 a day for each day that they don't finish the project on time. So we have the power of the purse, or maybe we've got the opportunity to take money from them if they don't take care of it. So that's the next issue. That's the next big issue. Now, the superintendent told me that once they got those boxes in across Nelson, those big boxes, they would be able to move heavy equipment across that to the site where Mill and Nelson is. I hope that's right, but it's been pretty muddy. They're not going to be able to get to that for a while. So now, as far as the accomplishments on the project, we've got the old bridge at Nelson. It had 3 36-inch corrugated pipes that were rusted and mostly collapsed. Those are out. We have 2 11-foot wide by 6-foot tall concrete boxes in there. The channel has been opened up to about 30 feet past Lamb Street, and it's concrete lined on the base, and like Bert said, they're doing that on the sides. They have put in what we call a trench drain that is at the intersection of Mill and Houston, and the grate across the top takes water that's coming down Mill Street and Houston. However, the top of Houston Street is higher than the curb, so that doesn't have much capacity. Most of the water coming down Houston will be in on the ditch on the south side. We've got a big bar grating that's on the side that will take the water that's coming down that ditch, and then take 2 42-inch pipes that goes to the intersection of Mill and Nelson, then to the creek. So that's a lot of, all the water and sewer replaced part of this project has been done also. It's not wise to put new concrete paving on top of old water and sewer lines, so we've replaced all the water and sewer lines. So that's it in a nutshell. I know you got a long agenda. I can talk more. I'm an engineer. I can talk a lot about this stuff, or I can quit. So y'all got questions for me, I'll be glad to address those.
How much has been paid to them so far? And then, because I mean, obviously, we don't want the end result to be us fighting over money. We'd like to have a bridge and a street put back together.
That's a very good question. Let me, I've got the pay request somewhere here. That they've done 77% of the project. We have retainage in the amount of, okay, we've got $163,000 of retainage. Now, the project is 73% paid. So of a $2 million, $2.04 million project, we've got about $250,000 that has not been paid. They've done some work in the last few weeks that they haven't been paid for also. So we've got about probably $250,000 of unpaid plus $160,000. So we've got about, what's that, $410,000 left.
What amount, if there's something unforeseen and they didn't finish it, what would it cost if we had to get somebody else to finish it, just out of curiosity?
Well,
I'm trying to see where the money's at the dollar amount there.
Fortunately, part of what you've paid for here is a payment and performance bond that requires the bonding company to pay for that. And it doesn't matter what it costs, they're the ones that have to pay it. So that's a portion of the cost. It's 3 to 5% of the overall project. But the bonding company checks out their contractors far more than we do because they have a financial interest in making sure it gets finished. In nearly 40 years, I've only seen 3 times where a bonding company took it over, but it was not pleasant. And nobody wins except the bonding company. It's tough. But in this case, we've got that, and we've got $400-something thousand that's still left.
When does their timeline run out?
They've used 73% of the time. I think we've got about, let's see here. I think they've got about 50 days left. I'd have to check and,
Can this amount of work be done in 50 days?
well, if the
The
rains,
completion date is July the 13th.
July 13th. Okay, so that's 30 and 13, 43,
Yeah.
and,
It'll be 60 days.
I get that,
Okay.
you know, I mean, if it was just a little period of time that they went over due to the weather conditions right now, I get that. But, you know, if keeps getting drawn out, then that's where my issue is. I'm like, golly,
yeah.
it's got this
So-
job, let's get it done.
Something that's strange to me, to your point, is that we've had, gosh knows how many rain days. They have not asked for a lengthening of the contract for those rain days. Now, maybe they could come in later. I don't know how the contract is worded exactly, but they hadn't asked for an extension of the contract for the rain days we've had, so.
Well, this is a calendar day contract, and what they're to do is to take into account the normal rain that we would have in Bowie, Texas, in this time of the year. But if they should, in their own interest, should go back and say, we've had twice the normal rainfall that would be expected, and we'd like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it is. And at our pre-construction conference, I said, document these instances when they occur, because 2 months later, we're gonna forget about it. You know, tell us that you had extra rain, whatever, and they've not done that yet, but, that's their prerogative to do that. And, it's your prerogative to impose liquidated damages. I've not seen, again, in 30 or 40 years, I've seen 3 times where city imposed liquidated damages, but those contractors worked really hard to deserve it. So most folks say, okay, if it's 2 or 3 weeks, go ahead and finish it. We don't care. But you've still got that crack, the whip you can crack.
Thanks, Mike. Any more questions about it? Thank you. I appreciate the help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The design work is still ongoing on the downtown revitalization grant. The engineers have told me that we should have a conceptual design within 2 to 3 weeks. I got some design work done and sent to me, and I can't tell beans from cabbage about what it is because it's kind of sketchy right now. So I don't have big plans. They're just on little bitty sheets and you can't read it. Do what? Yeah, you can go if you don't need to, Mike. Yeah. I don't want you to get home after dark, you know. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
When we get to the point of having a conceptual design, I plan on having a meeting with the business owners on my street so that they can see what we're trying to do. If you remember, I asked the council for an increase in the power cost recovery factory sometime back, which you decided not to do. The result of this is that our infrastructure fund is dwindling as we continue to use the funds without replacing them. On this agenda, we're asking for $24,000 for fire hydrant, which will leave the fund with about $432,000 in it. If we increase the power cost recovery factory from 0.068 to 0.0569 from 0.0569, we will stop losing money to the increased power cost and be able to start stabilizing the infrastructure fund. It is not a price increase, but a cost recovery. Since the first 6 months of the current fiscal year have passed, we will begin work on the new budget soon. We have preliminary tax numbers from the appraisal district, and we have some solid numbers from our enterprise fleet program. If any of you have a budget request for the next year, fiscal year, please let the mayor, Pam, or me know what you want to do and give us some detail. And last thing is that we have with us tonight Dalton Aiken, who is with Public Management. Dalton will explain the process we'll be going through for the planning grant we're applying for from the Texas General Land Office. Just as a reminder, this grant is 100% paid grant by the General Land Office.
Yep. So like Burr said, my name's Dalton Aiken. I'm with Public Management. I'm a planner and a GIS manager for this company. So on the agenda tonight is to award our contract to assist the city with the application and implementation of this program. This is a really unique opportunity. It's a up to $300,000 grant with zero matching funds to complete a comprehensive plan and a zoning, either a new zoning ordinance or zoning update. That being said, it'll have a lot of the common comprehensive plan elements, usually housing, population, land use, infrastructure sections, but the GLO is left a lot open in way of what they'll allow. So we're doing downtown plans for some communities. We've done parks, history sections, asset management. You kind of, you know, this is kind of like a wish list thing. This is about as free as money gets. We'll come out, part of our process is we'll do a housing survey. We'll look at all of your housing, the condition of the home, whether it's occupied, and then from that is where we get our population numbers. And then, you know, depending on what the city's infrastructure needs are, we'll either take some of your existing plans, we can be involved, or an engineer can be involved in developing those. You'll have a full CIP. And like I said, a lot of communities are doing parks, downtown. I think y'all would be really, you know, that would be a beneficial plan for y'all. We were also doing some economic development stuff as well. So it's a really cool opportunity. We're really excited to be able to offer this for the city, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got any questions? Stay with us,
Okay.
but we'll get back to you in a few minutes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, the consent agenda items, but with that tonight, we also have, excuse me, the financial statements. I know that each one of you have one, and Pamela is here to answer questions. So Pamela, why don't you go ahead and go to the podium? Go ahead and give us your take first.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The first page you'll see that I always turn in is first 6 months. If you look at the first line item, that's 2023 to 24. Second line item going down is 22, 23. And then you're going to see the difference. And you'll see a percentage of, and then you'll see a percentage of what we have to budget. Everybody see that? Okay. The total utility funds right now on the revenue side is at 46.42. If you go down a little bit further, you're going to see that all department heads did very, very well on keeping below the 50% where they should be close to as of now, because 6 months of the year has elapsed. That's at 49.26. Currently, right now, we are showing expenditures over revenue of almost 100,000. The reason for that is our revenues aren't coming in quite where we projected, but the department heads are staying within their budget. And Bert touched base a little bit, your city manager, on electric. If you go to the revenue on the electric side, we're at 43.81, that's on page 3. But on the expenditure side, we're at 48.71 paying out. The general fund is doing quite well, and that's because our property taxes come in most of the time, currently by this time. We should receive a little bit more. Our sales tax, we're at 62.04% of what we projected, but we're at 21,000 behind last year on sales tax. So the total general fund revenue, we're a little bit behind last year also. Expenses are at 49.72. So department heads are doing a great job, a really good job staying within their budget. If you would turn to, on the balance sheet, on page 1, you're gonna see petty cash, and then you'll see Legend Bank operating. Currently, in the utility fund, we only have $273,000 for operating expenditures. We're showing $6.6 million overall cash, but some of that's in CD, TexPool, Techstar. City manager and I are getting ready to release 2.5 of that into our operating account out of a CD for operating expenditures. And then if you go down to the bottom of that page, the fixed asset and our halfway under restriction, you're gonna see that cash infrastructure program, which is sitting at 456 currently. The monies that we're spending for the transfer station 3, as we call it, that's the 1.50 million. And then later on, I believe your public works director is gonna talk to you a little bit about the water sewer taps. That's at 241,000. And then if you go down to the bottom, you're gonna see the CIPs. Just recently, we talked about the Nelson Street Bridge. Currently, through March, we've spent $984,000 on that project. And then if you turn to page 13, we'll go to a balance sheet real briefly on the general fund. Excuse me. You'll see a little bit more revenue in the Legend Bank operating there at 1.6. That's because that's where all our property tax go. But you'll also see TexPool. That's where our sales tax funds go, in TexPool. So that's at 4.4 million overall. But then you'll see the restricted. We have over $1 million restricted. Then if you turn the page to page 15, you're going to see our FA for the cities, and then you're going to see the long-term debt for the city. And this is general fund only. These are our bonds and all of our PPF ACs, and that's at 1.5, almost 1.6.
On the vehicle lease liability, we consider that to be long-term?
Yes, because they're out over a year.
Okay. And then, but the obligation of that doesn't carry over for a decade if we don't lease additional vehicles?
Yes, it'll add to it. We're on a 4 or 5 year rotating.
Right.
So if we say mighty, we'll add that to it, and so that amount will go up. We pay down on it, but we also add to it as the vehicles come in and go out.
So it'll never be,
Zero out? No, sir. No, sir.
and then on, talking about being, under revenue on, in general, but it looks, what's the leading contributor to that?
On the 99,000 with the expenditures over revenue. It's just because our revenue didn't come in as we quite projected it. Some of it's a little bit low, as you can see. Electric's only at 73%. Sewer's doing excellent, and that's because of the increase that occurs every year. That's at 53, and water's at 46, but you'll see that the overall on the utility expenditures is at 49. And we didn't have as cold as winter as normally, so that brings down your electric a little bit. But what's making the price go up on the power purchase is what I call the TOS surcharge that we get charged. That has nothing to do with how much usage that we're purchasing. It's cost to get it here.
And so that's what we were talking about with the cost recovery factor?
That's
No,
correct.
No, it's
No?
not. No.
Okay, Bert explains it different than I do. I apologize.
The transmission charges is what you're talking about, that's stable and same. The PCRF is Power's Cost Recovery Factor, which has to do with the cost of the fuel. And it's
Gotcha.
constantly increasing, and that's what
Gotcha.
I'm talking about. We're paying more for fuel than we were last year by a large amount, and
Next year, it's gonna go up too.
yeah, and it's continually climbing in my conversations with people in the electric business, mainly Bright Texas Utilities. We're looking at increased natural gas costs, and that's why we're getting those increases, but we're not matching the increases with our rates.
Okay,
So
you look at it different than I do. I apologize. I look at it at the TOS charge that they're charging me monthly that keeps going up to get it here.
That's the transmission stuff, so, yeah. And
Okay.
that's basically, so.
When we're talking about the power, I mean, what's the spread on that power cost recovery factor?
We're losing about 100,000 a month or more.
Yeah, 75 to 100, yeah.
When you say we're losing, we're not making that much more.
We're not making as much money. I think I brought that with me, but I'm not sure. It may be.
So that's, BTU is going to make a visit to us at the beginning of our budgeting process
Okay.
to explain to you guys what the T-cost charges are and why we're seeing the increases. You know, we all saw the Atmos increase during our winter bills. So we also saw that increase with the city because of fuel cost. So we've not covered those charges, but BTU is coming to do a training meeting for us.
The main concern here is we're not collecting what we projected on revenues. And as you know, in the utility fund, we bill at accrual. That means
Right.
we book as we bill, not actually what we collect.
Would that be the case for the ambulance billings as well?
That's the only one in the general fund that runs on accrual.
Because it's
Everything else is cash-based only.
more calls, less money, is what I'm seeing.
Correct. At this time, yes. Sometimes there's lag 30, 60 days before we receive the funds.
So I know we're not talking budget, but since we are looking at these numbers, we're already putting forecasts and projections together.
Budget right now, I'm taking a really hard look, and I went back 5, 10 years because I thought our projections were pretty true and blue for our revenue and our expenditures. I feel comfortable with some of our expenditures, but our revenues are a little bit light. And I even thought I budget low on the revenue, high on the expenditures. And maybe that's not the case. Obviously, it's not. So I think this year, we're working really hard. I am doing the budget worksheets right now for the department heads, taking a hard look at those. Like I said, I'm going back 5, 10 years to get a more projective on what's occurring. Because when we have a light winter, I think this is what happens with our utilities. Because our electric is, lack of better terms, our bread and butter. And when that's low, that not only hurts the utility fund, but then I have to take a hard look at the general fund because we might not be able to transfer the 1.35 million that we do from utilities to help out the general fund. So it's a domino effect. Expenses are gonna be a little bit lower if possible, and revenues are gonna be flat. Unless we want to get into our fund balance,
Nope.
which we do have hefty fund balances, so that'll be a question that the council needs to ask yourself for projects in different areas. Fund balance is quite heavy. Right off the top, I think it's over 3 million that we do have we can work with, but if we get into our fund balance, which is okay, you know, other municipalities do that, It also reduces our monies that we have in the bank per se. And when we go out, and every year I have to go out for an S&P rating, right now, our Thrive was to be above 30% in general fund. We're at 32, so we'll meet that, so our S&P rating won't go down. Anytime your S&P rating goes down, it's hard to get bonds and or more so. We'll get the loans, might just be a little bit higher interest rate. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind, unless within the next couple months, our revenues take a rebound. Our sales tax are even down.
Yeah, they're down across the state.
So that's my concern, and,
Well, my concern would be, how do we rebuild the fund balance if we're not even covering our costs now? Rebuilding the fund balance would be another nightmare.
that's correct, but we do have a hefty fund balance at the time, but we start dipping into that, it goes down real quick. So I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, it's just something for the council to think about unless those revenues turn around.
We'll watch them
There's
close.
certain things we can use that fund balance for, or we can use it for anything we need, that we see fit.
You can use your fund balance to support your operations. Okay?
Any other questions for Pamela? Well, thank you. We will look forward to working with you on the
Sorry.
budget real fast. All right, so your minutes are in your packet along with the write-offs. If you have had a chance to look at them, I would entertain a motion to accept all as presented along with the financials.
So moved.
Post, do I have a second?
Second.
Bates? Shaw?
Yes.
Gunner? Bates? And Post.
Aye.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the resolution 2024-11. This is what Dalton Aiken was talking to you about a few moments ago. Did all of you understand what it is that he's working on? He's working for with us? Would you like to add anything to your statement?
I don't think so. So this, like I said, this resolution is to award our contract. Our proposal was for $100,000, which is what the city's cap is through GLO based on your population. However, you can request up to 300, and that would be our recommendation. After we're awarded, we'll have a big meeting with any stakeholders to establish what the priorities are for the application, and then we'll justify those costs based on those priorities and submit those to GLO. We have no application fee, and our fee is entirely paid with grant funds. So if for some reason GLO came back and awarded less, our contract would be reduced accordingly. So.
Okay, so,
Just so you'll understand what we're doing this project, they're not just gonna be talking with us, or, they're not just gonna be talking with us or city people. I plan on having a public meeting or two to get the public involved, taxpayers involved in this, so that, you know, you can see what people wanna do.
There's quite a few businesses in that, what we're talking about too, as well, right?
Do what?
There's quite a few businesses and business owners in that same
Sure,
area
sure.
they're talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm-
You know, just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to express their opinion and to do their wants and needs.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that up. The GLO requires a minimum of 3 public meetings, so there'll be big town hall workshops, public be notified accordingly. And then we'll also have a large public outreach component to our plans. We have a company that we work with, Pavlik and Associates, that will do a community survey and one-on-one stakeholder interviews, and we can take that as far as the city would like to go with that as well. So
any
The
other
more-
questions for Dalton?
I was just gonna say, the more people that are involved, the more cohesive the plan, and it works out better that way. So we appreciate all input from every party, so.
Any other questions? All right, so the resolution 2024-11 reads, a resolution of the City of Bowie, Texas, authorizing professional service provider selection for the Community Development Block Grant Mitigation Resilient Communities Program through the Texas General Land Office. I would entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Shaw. Gunner. Bates. Post.
Aye.
Shaw.
Aye.
Thank you,
All right.
Dalton.
Thank you
We
very much.
Look
Y'all
forward
have
to
a
working
nice
with you.
Thanks, Dalton.
The next item on the agenda is we have a request from Carol Moore to speak to the council about a repair on the Pelham Park Walking Trail. Carol's already headed to the podium.
First, I'd like to say thank you to Mayor Burris for allowing me this opportunity to address the council, and to the council, thank you for taking the time. I also have several fellow walkers and friends who've come to support the request as well. My name is Carol Moore, and I am an avid hiker, walker. 18 months ago, I hiked 250 miles plus across England from the west to the east coast. Next month, I will be returning to Europe for 3 hikes in excess of 200 miles total. However, I recently experienced personal tragedy due to the poor condition of the local walking trail at Pelham Park. And while enjoying what should have been a peaceful walk, I tripped and fell on the uneven surface and suffered a severe laceration that was filled with debris. Took quite some time to clean it out and several stitches. Broke my hand, requiring 2 surgeries and 3 pins to repair the bones. I'm currently undergoing extensive physical therapy to regain the use of my hand, but in all likelihood, I've been told, and again today, it will never be as functional as before. When my therapist asked me what my goal was, I said to be able to grip my hiking poles in June. I've got 23 days, and I can grip them with 2 fingers. But this accident didn't need to occur, and it's not just about me, it's about the safety of those who use the trail. My friends and I walk several miles a day, typically 5 days a week, all year round, and we've met many other walkers who do the same thing. They utilize the trail daily. And other than the many walkers and joggers that are out there, there are RVers, trade days, vendors and customers, soccer families, even the school cross-country teams run out there. On November 3rd of last year, I reported to the park that the cracks and potholes were a real threat, causing people to trip and fall. I was aware of numerous falls at the time, and one person who had broken her wrist suffered a head injury with laceration and stitches, and she's actually here tonight, had surgery on her wrist and stitches in her head. I also requested at a minimum the clearing of the weeds and grass and debris from the trail. On January 12th of this year, I again reported to the park that the trail was becoming too hazardous to walk. Another person had fallen and required assistance to get up. The rocks roll under your feet, causing you to slide. The sand and potholes are treacherous. And unfortunately, it was less than a month later that I sustained my injuries. Over the past several years, as we've walked out there, we've seen considerable erosion and lack of maintenance. Runners have stated that it's become too dangerous to use their jogging strollers. One here tonight actually tried to use a stroller out there and gave up, just carried the baby. There have been many incidents of falls and serious injuries while walking and jogging due to the uneven surfaces, the broken off pavement, the washed away areas, huge cracks, and enormous amounts of debris. We sincerely appreciate the provision of the trail. However, the current state of disrepair poses substantial risk to walkers, joggers, and children. And it's not just an inconvenience, it is a hazard that can lead to additional injuries like mine. I'm not the first one to fall and break bones, and I won't be the last unless the conditions are substantially improved. Our community needs safe public spaces where we can enjoy outdoor activities without fear of injury. So we call upon our local government here in Bowie, Texas to prioritize immediate repair, resurfacing, and subsequent maintenance of the walking trail at Pelham Park. And again, I'd like to say thank you for your time, and we appreciate your attention to this matter.
Thank you. I want the council to see that she has brought us some pictures. I didn't have Sandy scan them all in for you, but please take a look at them tonight. I'd also encourage each one of you to go out and individually walk the trail to see what she has seen, and let us work on, see what we can do to get this taken care of, at least start the project.
Okay?
Maybe definitely something we can put in the budget for repairs this year too.
Okay.
But we will, every one of us, I hope will go out and take a look at it and see it
I
personally.
do too. We are out there between 6 and 6:30 starting our walk every morning, so come join us. Would love to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Moore. So these are here today if you guys want to see them. I'm not going to call for any action tonight because we really need to do some research. Thank you very much for coming and bringing this to the council's attention.
Is it safe enough to remain open? is my question.
You need to go take a walk, and then we'll put it on the next agenda
It's
and
pretty
talk about it. But it would be very hard to close the walking trail, I would think. But everybody go take a look at it. I'll put it on the next agenda. All right, so the next item on the agenda is ordinance 2024-01. An ordinance of the City of Bowie, Texas, adopting a water conservation and drought contingency plan, establishing data, information, and policy for water conservation programs, criteria for the initiation and termination of drought response stages, establishing restrictions on certain water uses, establishing penalties for violation of and provisions for enforcement of these restrictions, and establishing procedure for granting variances, providing severability and effective date. I think Bert has a little bit more information on this.
This is, every 5 years, I'm pretty sure it's 5 years that we have, thank you. Every 5 years we have to come up with a new drought water conservation and drought contingency plan. It's basically the same plan that we've had in operation for the last 20 years. We do some upgrading, updating and stuff, the same thing. Fortunately, we probably won't have to use it this year because we've got a tremendous amount of rain. The lake is 1.5 feet over normal pool, so but anyway, you submit this to TCEQ, and then when you reach the milestones of a certain level, you go into stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 drought restrictions, and as the water goes down in the lake. And we haven't been in any stages in the last couple of years that I know of at all. So anyway, we just have to do this for the state of Texas. So
When's the last time we had to use it?
I don't think
3 years ago.
Did we use it 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. Now, my memory tells me that we did, but I'm not positive of that, and I couldn't guarantee it, but.
I've
It
been
was
here.
stage 1. We
Yeah.
never got past stage 1 of
Right.
drought restrictions in the last 6 years, so.
Yeah. So, all right, well, I would entertain a motion to pass ordinance 2024-01.
So moved.
Gunner, do I have a second?
Second.
Post, Shaw,
Yes.
Bates,
Aye.
Post,
Aye.
Gunner. Ooh, our favorite part of the night. Stoney is now going to come to the podium and ask for money. You know, he never comes just to say hi.
How y'all doing?
Make a motion, we don't do it.
Good evening, Council Mayor. I'll make it quick. So I'm requesting to utilize $24,000 out of the infrastructure account to purchase 9 fire hydrants for replacement purposes. I was asked earlier today for a kind of list, so part of this is replacing some of the hydrants I had in stock that we've already started this list, so it'll be replacing those plus the additional that we need. So we've already replaced the fire hydrant the fire hydrant on Berry and Pebble at Rock was not operational at all, so we've already replaced that. And the one on Sherwood, we've replaced that, and Walnut and Matthews, and then we've got roughly 5 more to go. So that's what that request is for. And it's a little over $400,000 in that infrastructure account.
Yes, we do.
Does that
And that-
replace all the hydrants you need?
I'll wait for Doug to test the rest of them and let me know.
So, did he answer the question that you asked me? First thing Brent said, has he already done it?
Yeah.
Just 3. I utilized the 3 I had on hand, but I want to replace those 3.
Sure.
I keep some on hand in case we have emergencies.
Okay.
Inside joke. But that's what this money was for. That's what we started that restricted fund
Yes,
for, was to do
yes.
water repairs.
Yes, and if you remember back when we've been laying water lines, we areas that don't have current hydrants.
Yeah.
So.
So, any questions? Well, let's make this one happen. I would entertain a motion to give Stoney the $24,000 he needs for 9 fire hydrants. Who said that? Bates? Second?
Second.
Shaw? Gunner?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Post?
Aye.
Shaw?
Yes.
You're still up, Stoney.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to request to utilize $29,825 out of the meter tap account. And as earlier, I believe Pam mentioned, we have a little over $240,000 still left in that account. That will purchase approximately 42 3/4 inch meters, 43 1-inch meters, and 12 2-inch meters. Just give you a little price difference, that's a total of 97 meters. Those prices range from, on the 3/4, from $85 a piece to the 2-inch that are $750 a piece. There, so it's, yes.
And these are like the commercial, just residential meters, you think?
Yes, like the 2-inch are business, school, areas like that, so,
And are they the smart meters that we've had these same issues with, or,
yes,
and we have to use those?
yes.
Or we want to, or, I mean, where are we at with that?
I'd met with a different company last week. We're trying out a different brand of meter that's roughly, they're giving me a lot better pricing on those, so we're actually trying to get one to pick up and come in. That's the biggest problem, they're not reading and picking up. And, you know, years ago, we had 4 meter readers, but I think we're still at 2 because we're still reading, 600 meters a month.
We spend a lot of money on
Yes.
residential, commercial
Yes.
side of it, as well as
Yes.
the city side of it. We spend a
Yes.
lot on this stuff.
Way too much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But-
So, I mean, what can we do going forward? I guess is my question, is we're gonna buy the same stuff and,
Well, I think that'd probably be a discussion that you might want to have behind closed doors, because I think there's a lot
Yep.
involved in with that, and with contractual issues and stuff like that. So I don't want to speculate on that.
okay.
So our request tonight is for $29,825. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Gunner, do I have a second?
Second.
Post? Shaw?
Yes.
Gunner?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
And Post?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is to approve the Bowie Fire Department Trauma Service Area C Emergency Medical Services Mutual Aid Agreement. That's a mouthful.
It is. It's a renewal of an agreement that we've had for 30 years, ever since the trauma service area was formed. Basically, it's our COG area, our Council of Governments, and it allows us to get help from them and us to help those as well. Liability is the big reason you have to have them. If we don't have mutual aid agreements and we call somebody in to help us, then we're responsible for any damage to their vehicle or people. You have the agreements in place, everybody pays for their own. That's the main purpose, is liability, to have them in place. But it's a renewal of the agreement that we had. What we call the RAC, they can't find the old one. It was so long since it's been done. So they've gone through the process of renewing it. That's all it is. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would entertain a motion to accept this mouthful.
So moved.
Post, do I have a second? Anybody?
I'll second.
Thank you. Shaw?
Aye.
Gunner?
Aye.
Bates? Post?
Aye.
Thank you. And I will tell you that we found out during the tornado mutual aid agreement does not mean they're going to come in and do it for no cost. Dang.
Ours is.
Yours is. All right, so let's move on to accepting the bid. Hang on, let me get there. Accepting the bid from BCAC Underground for the Texas Water Development Board Phase 2, Glen Hills Lift Station and Sludge Pump Replacement, which is what Mike was talking about, and this is Stoney's project, and we were, even though it was high, we were glad to see that they were the bid. He likes them, he's comfortable with the work that they do, and they haven't been anything like Nelson Street. So you can see the bid is in there, in your packet. Mike went over all this with you.
Does this have the reduction in it?
No,
No.
you have to approve the whole bid amount, I'm sorry, Tony. You have to approve the whole bid amount, by, Texas Water Development Board rules, and then we can either raise or lower the amount that we spend by 25% without getting their approval. Now, we'll let them know that we're doing that, but we don't have to get their approval. And if there's not gonna be any change orders involved, we can just not do some of these things.
At what point do you have to make that? When you approve one, when you do the 25%? You can do that anytime during the contract, during the process?
On this one, we're gonna do immediately.
It would be right to do it up front if you're gonna make those cuts. I don't think it's gonna be an issue with that contract.
And I mean, one example is the concrete poured around, no, that was the other bid. It's a line item thing. So they'll choose not to do this portion of it. No, I'm talking about another project altogether.
Concrete pad around a wet well.
That's what I was talking about.
$10,000. The abandonment of the existing lift station is $80,000, which we can just dump dirt into, and you know, it's not gonna cost us that kind of money.
$80,000 to do it.
We can remove the removal of an existing manhole and abandonment of the sewer lines around it is $27,000. Anyway, the total amount that he figured out that we can immediately get rid of is $28,025. And then if we change out a manhole from a polymer concrete to a traditional concrete, we can save an additional $25,000. So those are decisions that we can make right now. We can just tell the contractor, we're not gonna do that. The craziest one is, what they call regrassing. Well, it's a bunch of weeds out there. Well, regrassing is $18,300. So, you know, it's.
The weeds are gonna come back whether we plant them or not.
Yeah, the weeds are gonna come back, so.
So we would like to accept the bid. Bid number is CWSRF 73893. I would entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Who said that?
Thanks.
Bates? Post?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Shaw?
Yes.
Gunner? All right. The last item on the agenda is, we have a council member that has been wanting to set up a workshop. A couple of council members have recently gone to some TML Small Cities trainings, and one of them has just come back to the council. So I have tried to do this in the past with councils over the last several years, and I got one accomplished last year, and the gentleman that requested it didn't show up for the workshop. So what I want you guys to do is determine how you want to do a workshop. You want to do it on a weeknight, you want to do it in an afternoon, you want to do it on a Saturday morning, I don't care. But the only way you're going to be able to sit down and talk about all this together is what you'd like to see is in a workshop.
So will the department heads be there in this workshop?
It depends on when the meeting is. I don't want to call all the department heads after after work. So it's something that you will have to probably impose upon your own schedules so that it can be done during the day.
Not on a Friday?
Not on Friday. A lot of our department heads still work on Friday.
So it's a good time for you.
I mean, I don't really see it necessary to call all of them in to some degree, but I mean, would like to know their requests or have some idea of what their needs are. And I feel like we could probably get that done without having them there in person to start.
Well, again, this is something that's been brought to our attention several times, that a workshop is wanted. And I understand, because not
Agreed.
all of you get to come in and talk to Bert, very often. You don't all get to talk to the department heads. So budget process is gonna start here before too long, and if there's something you would like to see, or you would like to understand why certain things happen the way they do, then I'm more than willing to work in a workshop. I just need to know, you know,
Me personally, you know, like when we have a meeting that's kind of short, I just say do it the night we're already here. That's what I like to do. It just, after the meeting's over, then we can just break it down and have a workshop. That's just food for thought of mine. That's my suggestion.
Or go before.
A lunch meeting.
Makes it a little more difficult at times, you know.
Yeah, especially for those that have jobs.
Well, you do take a lunch break.
so why don't you do this? Why don't all of you think about this? I'm also gonna,
If we do it that way,
Yeah.
whatever, however long it needs. The only reason I say that, I'd rather do it at that time, instead of having lunch where people have got stuff. I mean, we're in other organizations as well, you know, that we do our own stuff, but when 1 o'clock comes, we're done. So we can get back to our jobs and do whatever, so.
so if we're gonna do this and budget is starting, it needs to be at our January the 10th January. That's a good time, isn't it? On our June the 10th meeting, we need to schedule a workshop for, I like the idea of after the meeting, so we're not rushed into trying to start a 6 o'clock council meeting. So if you want to do something that immediately follows that meeting,
Okay,
is that what you want to do?
I do.
Do I need a vote till that? Can I just call a workshop? Okay, so then unless something drastic happens, like almost no quorum, then we will stop at the end of the night on June the 10th.
Good, thank you.
Come with your questions, come with the things you want. I will ask the department heads to stay with us to make this happen. And I'll buy you dinner.
The only problem, the only problem I see with me, I'll be honest with you,
Don't you dare not show up.
I'm just, everybody knows that I'm still, this is my last year, but I'm still president of the Village Sports Association. And with our games going on, with the rain outs that we're having now, I can see it going into that first week of June.
Okay, so does that mean you
Man,
won't be
don't play
available, Brent?
ball, you just run the thing.
No,
Does that mean that you would not be available either?
You know, I got 3 and 4 year olds, so I'm a little flexible if they don't make up a game. I'm okay with that.
All right, well, okay, so this is what we're planning, and if we see that that's an issue, we will work around it.
well, I'm just telling the public here, so if I can't be here, it's not because I'm just don't want to be here.
Another factor would be if we won't be very far into the budget at that time, so we may want to put it off till 1st of July or something, so we'll be a little further in the budget, and that kind of help.
Just whatever.
All right, we're shooting for the 10th for now, and we'll work around it. So do I have anybody that would like to make public comment? If not, I'm going to call this meeting at what time? 7:03. Thank you.
Hey Pam, I have a question for you.